Good day, everyone. So, for today's session, I will welcome you back to our chemistry class. So, welcome back, the Powerpuff People of grade 8 students. Why Powerpuff People? Because you have the power to learn. You have the power when you have your knowledge. And I hope that by the end of this session, you gain that power while still enjoying the process of learning. All right? So for today's session, I want you to learn sugar, spice, and everything nice. I want you to learn something new and exciting. I want you to learn something cool and interesting. And I want you to appreciate everything nice. Okay, so by the end of the session, I hope that you can gain something from the different, let's say, concepts or topics that we will be tackling. All right. So, in order for us to undergo the following, let's say, lessons, or let's say, in order for us to gain something new in this session, we will try to target the following objectives or outcomes. So, we have six outcomes for this session. Number one is to classify matter based on atomic composition. Second is to differentiate elements from compounds. Third is to define what is a pure substance. Fourth is to identify several characteristics of elements. Fifth is to classify compounds and differentiate compounds from molecules. Then sixth is to differentiate diatomic molecules from polyatomic molecules. So these are quite many, but these are all interconnected concepts. Okay, so I hope that we try to interweave everything into a single knowledge. All right, so let's try to recall what we know so far. Okay, so far we have discussed the concept of matter. And remember that matter can be classified into this, let's say, different physical forms, namely the solid, liquid, and gas. So these are very elementary classifications of matter. Okay, so matter can be classified to its physical forms. However, these are just one of the ways we can classify matter. The question is, how do we classify matter in the atomic level? Remember, um, matters exist in nature in different physical forms based on the arrangement of the particles. Solid matter have, let's say, very tight or compact arrangement of the particles. Liquid can be a bit of free moving, and gas is really free moving. But on the atomic level, how do we classify matter? When we say atomic level, we look at the, let's say, the different types of particles that compose a specific matter. So let's try to analyze that by undergoing this activity entitled What's the Matter? All right. So what atoms are the following materials made of? So let's try to analyze the following materials and let's see what atoms they are made of. So first, water. Okay? So your water has a chemical composition or formula of H2O. Okay? So meaning to say, your water is composed of three atoms, two H and one O. But it is only composed of two types of atoms. So you have the hydrogen atom and the oxygen atom. Okay? Again, it is, let's say it has a total of three atoms, but only has two types of atoms. And what are those two types of atoms? You have your hydrogen and you have your oxygen. Next, iron nails. Okay, your iron has a chemical formula of Fe, iron. So it is only composed of one atom, and it's only composed of one type of atom, which is iron. Okay, total number of atom, one. Total type of atom, also one. How about the following material? We have your vinegar, and you have the chemical formula CH3COOH, or acetic acid. Okay, in total, you have, okay, let's count. So you have 1 plus 3, that's 4. Okay, then plus another C, that's 5. Plus 2 O's, that's 7. And 1 H, which is 8. So you have a total of 8 atoms. Okay, 8 atoms. But you only have three types of atoms. And what are those? You have your carbon, your hydrogen, and oxygen. Again, there is a total of 8 atoms based on the chemical formula. but it only consists of three types of atoms: the carbon, the hydrogen, the oxygen. How about the air you breathe? Okay, so basically, the air you breathe is oxygen gas, and the oxygen gas has a chemical formula of O2. It has a total of two atoms, but it only has one type of atom, which is oxygen. Okay, total two atoms, but only one type of atom, which is oxygen. Now, notice that each material is composed of different types of atoms. Some are composed of only one type of atom, while some are composed of two or more types of atoms. For instance, you have your water once more. So your water consists of two types of atoms: the hydrogen and the oxygen, H2O. Your iron nails consist of one type of atom, which is iron. Your acetic acid or vinegar is composed of three types of atoms: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, while the air you breathe or the oxygen gas is only composed of one type of atom, which is oxygen. Now, this, let's say, this composition, or let's say the different types of atom make up the composition of your matter. Okay? What again? This different atoms or these different types of atoms make up the composition of your material, of your matter. Hence, matter can atomically be classified based on its composition. Okay? So going back, we first classified matter based on its physical appearance or its physical properties. And what are those three classifications? Solid, liquid, and gas. But this time, we want to atomically classify the matter based on its composition. What is it made of? What element, let's say, does the material is composed of? Okay? So, in other words, or in simpler terms, anong bumubuo sa materyales? Anong bumubuo sa matter or substance na meron ka? That's your composition. Alright? So, the question is here. Okay? Notice that each material has a fixed chemical composition and possess distinct chemical properties from one another. So, if you notice, your water is composed of H2O. Your nails is composed of iron. Your acetic acid is composed of CH3COOH or acetic acid. And then the air is composed of O2. Meaning to say, each matter or each material has its own distinct chemical formula and it does not change. It is fixed. Okay? All water, let's say this, all water has a chemical formula of H2O. All iron nails has a chemical formula of Fe. All vinegar or all acetic acid has a chemical formula of CH3COOH. And all oxygen gas has a chemical formula of O2. They have fixed chemical compositions. And each one has different properties from one another. Okay? You cannot say that water has the same property as your iron. You cannot say that your oxygen has the same property as your acetic acid. Hence, they have distinct chemical properties. They are not the same in terms of their characteristics. And these materials or these substances that has a fixed chemical composition or let's say fixed chemical formula and possess different chemical properties from one another are known as pure substances. Alright? So basically, your matter, which has an atomic composition, are pure substances. And these pure substances have fixed chemical compositions and distinct chemical properties. Okay? You should write this down. Alright? Now, your pure substances can be classified into two. You have your element and you have your compound. Okay? So by just looking at the illustration here, All right. So by just looking at the illustration here, your element is composed of the same colored circles, while your compound is composed of two differently colored circles. Now, what does it mean? How do you differentiate an element from a compound? Let's try the following examples. First, you have your sodium. Okay? Is sodium an element or a compound? Think for 3 seconds. Lock in your answer. One, two, three. So let's reveal the answer. Your sodium is obviously an element. This material is composed of only one element, which is sodium, obviously. How about the next one? Your carbon dioxide. Your carbon dioxide is three, two, one. This is a compound because your carbon dioxide is composed of two different elements or two types of atoms. What are those? You have your carbon and you have your oxygen coming from the chemical formula CO2. Next, how about your ozone layer? Okay, three, two, one. So your ozone is actually an element. Why? It is only composed of one type of atom, which is oxygen. It has a chemical formula O3. Okay? So oxygen, it only composed of oxygen, not let's say there are no other elements involved in the composition of ozone. Next, how about this one? You have your match head. Okay? The posporo. Yung ulo ng posporo. Three, two, one. So you can let's say you might be quite shocked, but your match head is actually an element. It is known as red phosphorus. That's why in Tagalog or in Filipino you call the match as posporo. It comes from phosphorus. All right. So your red phosphorus is only composed of one type of atom. It is only composed of one element, which is phosphorus, P4. All right. How about this one? You have your chalk. Okay. Three, two, one. Your chalk is actually a compound. It is composed of three different atoms or three different elements. So you have your calcium, your carbon, and your oxygen, making up calcium carbonate. Okay? So now that we know how to classify these materials, what exactly is an element? What exactly is a compound? So, as you see from our examples, elements are pure substances that cannot be broken down into simpler substances by chemical means. Why? Because they are already in its simplest form. Remember that your elements seen in the periodic table cannot be broken down into other elements. It is already the base form of a, let's say, specific material. Okay? So your element, for example, you have your sodium, you have your ozone, you have your phosphorus or red phosphorus, you have your coal. Okay, coal is actually made up of carbon. Okay, then you have your nitrogen gas, actually. Then you have your oxygen gas, and you have your aluminum foil. So it is made up of aluminum. As you can notice, all of these materials are only composed of one type of atom, only composed of one element. Only a single element builds up each material. No other elements are involved. That is why it is already in its simplest form. Okay? Next, compound. Contrary to the element, your compound are, let's say, composed of two or more different elements chemically bonded in fixed ratios. So take note of this term. Okay? Two or more elements. So meaning to say you can have two types of atoms or more. Okay, you have two, three, four types of atoms in a single substance. And these different types of atoms, these different types of elements are bonded chemically. they have chemical bonds and they are in fixed ratios. So when we say fixed ratios, it has a distinct chemical formula. Okay? Even though it comes into different forms, its, let's say, its chemical formula is still the same. So what is the example of that? You have your water, your ice, your water vapor. All of these have different structure. All of these, let's say, appear differently in physical nature. Your ice is solid, but it is composed of H2O. Your water is liquid, but it is still composed of H2O. Your water vapor is gas, but it is still composed of H2O. That is why your compound is in fixed ratios. And the elements that, let's say, that composes, or let's say the elements that compose a compound are bonded with chemical bonds. All right? Now, speaking of fixed ratios, your compound has a definite chemical formula and unique properties. When we say unique properties, each compound is different from one another, and it is dictated by the element that make it up. Okay? So let's say a specific compound is composed of, let's say, several elements. The combination of that elements will give that compound a different or unique property. All right? So that is why your compounds have different properties from one another. What are the examples of compounds? You have your carbon dioxide, you have your calcium carbonate, your table salt or your sodium chloride, and also your table sugar. Okay? Your C12H22O11. The sugar you use in your kitchen is a compound. And take a look at this. All of these are, let's say, composed of different elements. No two elements are the same. Carbon is different from oxygen. From this one, calcium is different from carbon and from oxygen. This one, you have your sodium and your chlorine. All right? So that's, uh, uh, let's say, that's how a compound is represented by using your chemical formula, and it shows the different elements. And these elements are bonded together. All right? So let's delve deeper into the nature of the element. Recall that your elements exist as atoms. Okay? And since these elements exist as atoms, they have the following. So it has an atomic number. So the atomic number is the one that identifies what atom or element it is. So remember once more that your atomic number is equal to the number of protons and to the number of electrons. Why is this important? Because the number of protons of a certain atom dictates the identity of that atom. It gives that atom a name. So let's say you have three protons. So from the three protons, you already know that atom, or let's say that that particular atom is lithium. It has a name. All right. So let's say your atom has 20 protons. So that atom has a name. Coming from the 20 protons, you can see that it is calcium, right? That's why the atomic number is important in identifying the element. The element also has its symbol. It has its name and it has a standard atomic mass. Since each element has its own nucleus, and remember that each nucleus is composed of proton and neutrons that has masses, it contributes to how heavy an element is. Okay? Now, these elements, given that they have different atomic numbers, okay, these atomic numbers, let's say, helped scientists to arrange them in an array. And that array is known as the periodic table. So the periodic table is arranged from, okay, the periodic table is arranged from the lowest atomic number up to the highest atomic number. Okay? So the atomic number or the number of protons dictated how these elements behave in nature, how these elements has their own unique characteristics in nature. Okay? So once more, your element has an atomic number that determines the identity of that element. And then the periodic table is arranged based on the increasing atomic number, and the organization in the periodic table of these elements help predict the properties and behavior of the elements. Okay? So that is the importance of knowing the atomic number and familiarizing the periodic table so that you can know what are the properties of the elements. And speaking of the properties, you can classify elements as metals and non-metals. This is the general classification of elements, metals and non-metals. Actually, there is a third one known as metalloids. So metalloids are in the middle of metals and non-metals. So when we say metalloids, um, it possesses certain characteristics of metals, but at the same time, it also possesses certain characteristics of non-metals. So where can you find your metals in your periodic table? It is mainly on the leftmost side, okay, or the left-hand side of your periodic table, while your non-metals can be found at the right-hand side of your periodic table. All right? So let's see. Let's try to differentiate metals from non-metals based on the following properties. So these are the physical properties of your materials. So heat and electricity. Between metals and non-metals, metals has a high capacity to conduct heat and electricity. Hence, they are good conductors. Why? Because your metals have a more delocalized electrons. And when we say delocalized, their electrons are free moving. Do you remember the concept of valence electrons? Okay, so valence electrons are the electrons at the outermost shell. Remember? And these electrons at the outermost shell is dictated by, let's say, yeah, it is dictated by the atomic number. So when you try to place the electrons on the electron shells, you get excess, quote unquote, excess electrons on the outermost shell. And these are your valence electrons. Now, since metals are on the left hand side of the periodic table, you can assume that they have less valence electrons. And when you have less valence electrons, these electrons are freely moving in their orbit. Why? Remember that your electrons are negatively charged. And when you put your two electrons side by side, they repel. Remember? That is why if you have, let's say, less number of electrons, there is a lesser chance that these electrons repel from one another. They orbit their electron shell without repelling. That is why it's called free moving electrons. And because of these negativity and let's say the movement of these electrons, they conduct heat and electricity efficiently. Okay? It's because of their charges and their free moving nature. That is why your metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. And on the contrary, your nonmetals are mostly insulators. So they lack free moving electrons. Why? Remember that in your rightmost part of your periodic table, you have your noble gases. And your noble gases already has filled electron shells. They are already stable. And when these electrons are stabilized, they cannot move freely. Okay? So madaling salita, puno na yung outermost electrons. Or kung hindi man puno, siksikan na ang ating electrons. Alright? Next, in terms of appearance, your metals are lustrous. What do you mean by lustrous? They can reflect light. They appear shiny. They have luster. Okay? They appear shiny. How about the non-metals? So contrary to the metals, non-metals do not exhibit luster. Okay? They are not shiny. They are lackluster. Next, malleability. The ability to be flattened into thin sheets. So your metals are both malleable and ductile, meaning to say they can be flattened into thin sheets or they can be, let's say, extended. Okay? What do you call this? Yeah, you can extend like the copper wire. For example, you can extend these metals. How about non-metals? Your non-metals are mostly brittle. Okay, it is easy to crush. Okay, it cannot be, let's say, it may be flattened to an extent, but it crushes easily. Okay, that's why it's brittle. Next, in terms of tensile strength, melting point, and density, your metals have high tensile strength, have high melting point, and have high density. What do we mean by that? So meaning your metals has a higher capacity. Okay, it is a higher capacity to support weight. Okay, so that is why your bridges, your houses have metal support because it has a high capacity to support the weight of these infrastructures. Next, it has a high melting point. When it has a high melting point, it only means that your metals do not melt easily. Okay? Your metals do not melt easily. Then dense, they have high density. Meaning to say, if they have high density, they have a high capacity to sink. Okay? Mabigat. It is heavy. How about non-metals? So contrary to metals, your non-metals have low tensile strength, low melting point, so it melts easily, and low density, so it can float. Okay? Your metals can float. It is lightweight. All right? So, also, you can classify elements based on two. You have natural and you have synthetic elements. So, natural elements, these are elements that are already present in nature. All right? So, about 90 elements in the periodic table occur naturally in nature and in the universe, meaning to say they are already there. Okay? You can find them in the environment. While synthetic elements, from the word itself, synthetic, okay, they do not occur naturally. These elements are generated. They are made in laboratories. They are synthesized in laboratories. So examples of these elements are technetium, einsteinium, darmstadtium, moscovium, tennessine, americium. Okay? So notice, for this is a trivia. Notice that some of these elements are named after people or named after places. For example, americium. It is named after America because americium is first synthesized in America. Darmstadtium. Darmstadtium is also named after a place, Darmstadt. I believe it's in Germany. Okay? Because Darmstadtium is first synthesized in Darmstadt, Germany. All right? So meaning to say these elements, you cannot find them in your environment. They are not readily available in nature. However, they are made by scientists in laboratories. So these are, let's say, the characteristics. These are what makes up an element. So for our next video presentation or for our next video lesson, we will now go or delve deeper into the nature of compounds.